dragonlover, and I'm here with my mom today. We're going to be watching one of Liama Arts' videos. So, here we
get
go.
to pick which one?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I want this one.
The three. Okay.
Get
Get out of here, Dad! Jeez! Okay, so we're going to be reacting to A College Horror Story 2 animated.
This is a clear aligner from Smile Direct Club. It takes teeth like these and transforms them into those.
Yeah, me too. Oh, take the volume up.
Back when I was in college, me and my best friend Miko heard a rumor that our dormitory was haunted. I didn't encounter anything in the 2 years of staying there, so I was skeptical. I could see why the rumor started. Our dorm was kinda creepy, and Miko was convinced it was true. One day, I placed a hot cup of coffee in the sink and said, "If this cup magically empties itself by the time we get back from school, I'll believe you." "Deal. Wanna bet on it?" "Come on, you won't bet on it because you know you'll lose." When I arrived home, I noticed Miko was asleep. It seemed quite weird as he would normally be playing games or cooking in the kitchen. I put my bag on the table and noticed the cup in the sink. I knew it, I said to myself.
It's actually pretty cool.
I started to pour the coffee away when my phone vibrated. "Why are you calling me?" I thought perhaps he left his phone at school. I answered. "Hello?" "Hey, just eat without me tonight if you're hungry. I'm still at the store getting food supplies for next week. I grabbed some coffee. I noticed we're almost out. Oh, and I tried looking for that green sauce you put in your homemade burgers. No luck though." "But wait, another checkout just opened. I'll cook tonight. I shouldn't be too long. See ya." I was confused. My eyes darted around the room as I tried to gather my thoughts. That's when I realized something.
Oh yeah.
I was too freaked out at this point.
No.
"Hey, I hope you're hungry." "Oh."
I love you, just laughs. Oh!
Look at his face. He's like, oh no. And this is supposed to be true?
Yeah, it's true stories.
Okay, it left me hanging. What's...
"Thanks to XP Pen."
Okay.
Oh, it's a different one now.
Oh yeah. So mom's upset that I left her hanging. Well, it's kind of like our house.
No, I needed an ending to it.
That was the ending.
So what happened to the dude with the sink?
Oh, well, the animation, what he said, what I think these are is like what he says is true, but like the animations aren't true because that's just him trying to hook the viewer.
Oh, okay.
And it worked.
Want to watch A Bus Shop Horror Story?
Where's that one?
Right here.
Okay.
And then that freaky Christmas time one. Use it for my timer.
Hey, you just see Tika's.
This happened when I was 17 years old. I would go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week and ride the bus home. It was a Sunday and I had just missed my bus, so I had to wait longer for another one. I would have called my parents, but they were out for the evening, and taxis charged more, so I decided to sit and wait in the bus shelter. It was a cold night and snow had just started peppering the ground. My bus was taking longer than usual, so I got my phone out and listened to some music. Almost an hour had passed. It was freezing and I hadn't seen anyone at all. That was until I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. It was a creepy guy dressed in thick layers of clothing, walking slowly towards me. I knew staring at him would draw more attention, so I just focused on my
He's probably
phone.
homeless.
He sat down at the other end of the shelter and just stared at me. There was something off about him. He seemed like he was either drunk or on drugs. He then asked,
"When is the bus due?"
I took out my earphones and said, "I think it's delayed because of the snow." He stared at me for a while, then started mumbling to himself. He was really starting to creep me out, so I pretended to be on my phone. After a couple of minutes, I took another look. He'd moved closer to me.
Oh.
I looked away for a second, then heard the sound of him sliding even closer. I turned to him and said, "You okay there?" He stared at me with glossy eyes, lifted his arm and leaned towards me. Immediately, I grabbed my bag and ran as he fell to the ground.
Eat yourself
I
out
ran
there.
down the road, trying my hardest not to look back. I kept going until I got to the next bus stop. I turned around to check to see if he was there. He was gone, so I went to sit down.
But yeah, I think he's gonna
Feeling
run.
relieved, I rested my head on the back of the glass and waited for the bus.
The end.
I jolted and turned around to see the same guy staring at me through the glass.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Then he started walking around the shelter towards me.
I'm warning you, stay back.
I yelled in panic as I was backing up. I wanted to run, but I left my bag in the shelter and I couldn't leave without it. Suddenly, the man leaped at me and I quickly moved out of the way. He fell to the ground face first. I froze in shock, then noticed the blood coming from his face. I tried to get a response out of him, but nothing worked. I called the police and paramedics and they arrived shortly after. I told them what had happened and they told me that the guy was on prescription drugs. They found a photo in his wallet of him and his son. The boy looked just like me, so we assumed he thought I was him. I later learned that he had lost his son in a custody battle and went off the rails. He was taken away for treatment, and that was the last I saw of him. I got my driver's license shortly after, and have never been on a bus since.
Did you see that?
No. But.
And have never been on a bus since.
Oh, the timer's going off.
Yeah.
This one. A college horror story. Okay, so this is like part one.
It was an early morning. My campus didn't offer housing and I lived about a half a mile from school, so I started my journey as usual while playing on my phone. I glanced up to see an old man heading towards me on a bicycle. Normally, I'd step aside to let bikers and skaters pass, but he braked instead. I stopped too, wondering if there was something wrong. He walked up to me and said,
Don't worry, I'm not gonna hurt you.
Oh,
I
no.
felt chills instantly. I didn't know what to think. I just looked up at him with a fearful and confused expression. I was gathering up the courage to tell him that I was late for class and I should go, but before I could say anything, he said,
Get off the grass.
Looking down, I noticed I'd stepped over towards the road and onto the grass. I stepped off slowly and he said,
You wouldn't want to step on any bugs or get your shoes dirty now, would you?
He raised his finger and asked me what my name was. I told him, and he replied,
Don't worry, I'm not gonna hurt you.
Run.
The same chills ran through my body again, but before I could say anything, the man said,
Get off the grass. You wouldn't want to step on any bugs or get your shoes dirty now, would you?
I looked down to see that I was back on the edge of the sidewalk again. This had to be deja vu. He asked for my name once more. I said my name again, but he interrupted me before I could finish. He told me his grandchildren are down the road and needed gas money. I told him I didn't have any spare change or any change at all for that matter. He continued to ask me again and I gave him the same answer. Eventually I headed towards my school.
He didn't move
I
off
turned
the
to see
grass
if he was
second
still
time.
there, but he was gone. As I was walking, I approached the intersection. There was a truck on its side. It must have tipped over while turning the corner.
What?
Oh my goodness. Aww.
If you want to help support the channel, head on over to the brand new Liama Arts merch store.
That dude's
It
just
has
as
new stuff
confused.
available, like updated t-shirt designs. It was a cold, foggy evening when I contacted a close friend of mine to stay at my place for the night. Both of us were only 10 years old at the time, and my parents were often at work until midnight, so I was usually alone with nothing to do except watching a television show or reading a book. My friend Alex had agreed to come over and brought a game of Monopoly to pass him the time. I also asked if he was interested in going to explore an abandoned subway station 3 miles away.
Yeah!
He seemed excited at first, so we planned to go on the trip in the morning. I remembered that the subway dated back to the mid-1920s and became abandoned in 1932 after the market crash in 1929. I was very fascinated about its history, but never got the chance to go inside after my parents had warned me not to enter. As I quietly slept in my bed, I heard what sounded like a gunshot coming from the forest behind the house. Both of us woke up, frightened after what we had heard, and I told my friend not to worry, as hunters tend to go into the forest on frequent occasions, but when I checked the time, it was 11:39 p.m. This seemed very unusual, as hunters only came into the forest between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. I looked at Alex and decided to get out of my bed, intending to look through the window and spot for anyone in the forest. The darkness clouded my vision, so I was unable to see anyone in the forest. I turned around and looked at Alex again, when suddenly I heard the front door squeak open. Chills went down my spine. Both of us quietly moved to the bathroom, locked the door, and kept the light off. It was the only safe place in the house. Both of us were terrified as we desperately tried to keep as calm as we could. We heard footsteps getting louder and louder until they stopped in front of the bathroom door. And then this is when the most terrifying sound forced my heart to almost burst. Both of us screamed as the person chopped the door to pieces. It was pitch black inside the room, making it hard to find the vent, and by the time I spotted the vent, the person behind the door had made a hole big enough for us to see him. The man adorned black leather and was wearing a plague doctor mask. I scurried back to the vent, but it was too high above the floor for us to reach it, so Alex told me to go first because he was the strongest. He lifted me up on his shoulders, allowing me to open the vent and crawl inside. When I looked at the door again, the man had managed to fit his arm through the hole and reached for the lock. I quickly grabbed Alex's hand, but struggled to pull him up into the vent.
Oh, this is funny.
I shouted and began going after him. I pursued the figure until I was led to the abandoned subway deep within the forest. It was chilly and foggy, meaning that I could only see objects within a range of 5 or 6 yards. Inside the subway was a pool of freezing cold water. It was so dark that I couldn't see anything. I had to rely on listening to the screams from Alex and track the source. As I slowly walked through the subway, I was now struggling to breathe under the intense stress and fear of the situation. I called, but there was no response. I continued walking through the water until the exit was no longer visible. I was now experiencing a massive panic attack. I had lost track of Alex, and I had no idea where I was or how to get out. Where are you, Alex?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's not good.
You jinxed it, Mom.
Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video.
That was not good. Yeah.
Well,
So what did it say? Alex died, the one who was looking for his friend, and his friend was still never found?
no, Alex was the blonde kid. The one with like the glasses.
So he was the one that was hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
And the other kid was never found.
The other kid was never found.
Then how do they know the story?
I mean, there's probably like police reports and stuff.
Okay, this makes no sense.
Like,
I understand what you're saying, but it makes no sense because how do they know that the kids left the house to follow an intruder who was carrying this kid into the subway You see what I'm saying?
I don't know. Jeez, Mom, you poke holes in everything.
Well,
Can't watch anything with you.
that just doesn't make sense.
Last one. The creepy neighbor.
Oh.
Man, this game's boring.
You're boring.
Isn't there any good game out there that's free?
Boy, can't get
Breaks through the wall. Ah!
Jeez.
This happened in 2009. We would fly from our home state in California to Minnesota to visit my father's family for the summer. I've always enjoyed it there because of the nature and peaceful atmosphere. My father's family lived far from the nearest town, and he only had 2 neighbors. My only friend there was a girl who lived next door. Let's call her Morgan. She's around my age, and me, my sister, and her would always play from sunrise to sunset. One day at around 4 p.m., we were outside playing badminton. My sister hit the birdie too hard, and it landed in the next door neighbor's yard. Morgan said she had more inside her house and went to get them. I felt uncomfortable leaving it there, so I told my sister I'll go get it myself. She told me not to do it and just wait for Morgan. While my sister was fixing the net, I decided to run and get it real quick. As I was about to enter the gate, my sister grabbed me from behind and began telling me how much of a bad idea it was. That's when an old man came out from behind the house. He picked up the birdie and said,
Same old dude.
Is this yours?
I said yes and asked if I could have it back. He said he had his grandchildren's old toys upstairs and asked if
I think a bird just hit the window.
No.
I'm pretty sure.
we wanted to have them. Me and my sister were very young at the time, and we thought as he lived so close and he looked like a typical sweet grandfather, what's the worst that could happen?
What did he do?
So we agreed.
I
Both
missed.
sweet grandchildren were very children's old toys upstairs and asked if we wanted to have
Are you
them.
crazy?
Me and my sister were very young at the time, and we thought as he lived so close and he looked like a typical sweet grandfather, what's the worst that could happen? So we agreed and entered through the back door.
Murder, kidnapping.
The first thing I noticed was the stench. It smelled of damp and rotting food. I shrugged it off at the time since he was old. Maybe he lived alone. We heard Morgan calling our names, and we politely told the old man that we had to go, and maybe we'd return tomorrow. Morgan saw us through the window and immediately asked what we were doing there. I answered, "The sweet old man," and she cut me off and said that the house was abandoned since she moved there. I thought she was just playing around with me and told her to cut it out. She had a blank expression, and that's when I knew that she was serious. We never told anyone because we didn't want to cause any trouble. And now that I'm older, I wonder if it was some ghost or creepy old man luring kids into that house. The house got demolished recently, which is why I wanted to share this story.
Well.
So they never saw the guy leave, or?
Guess not.
Alrighty.
Well, that is it for this video. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Go check out my other social medias, and I will see you all in the next video.
Bye.
Bye-bye!
That's not in there. Okay, let's start that over, please.
I can edit it out.
Okay.
Ah, you're
Shuffle
pushing me over
back.
now.
I gotta at least get my leg in.
Don't touch my ball!
Your ball?
My ball!